We will be having the second Leo Cup starting 15th of July, and oh boy, with all the new updates, a lot of things have changed, starting from the new scenario of choice and all the new skills and mechanics going on. I'll be discussing all of this in the guide. First of all, I will be going through the general information and acceleration skills first. There will be a little bit changes to the acceleration skill for late surgers because of the update, and I will touch on that as well. The CM will be held on the Nakayama 1200-meter turf. The condition is right-handed, summer, sunny, and firm. There is no hidden stat bonus as well for this course, so there's no additional hidden speed boost. Sprint courses like this one always have a really long acceleration zone compared to the rest of the race. This course is basically the same deal as the Capricorn Cup. Roughly half of the late race is spent in the acceleration zone, and if you're not stacking any acceleration skill, then yeah, GG, your Uma will just lose. So yes, whoever hits more acceleration skill and hit the top speed sooner wins the sprint CM. And that's basically the whole idea of the sprint CM that we know. But here's the weird part about this track though. The start of the race until 300-meter section, right at the start, isn't actually a straight or a corner. It's just a dead zone, and that doesn't count as either. What this means is that any random straight or corner skills doesn't activate on this zone. Previously in the Capricorn Cup, Turbo Spin was like the gold acceleration gold skill because it have two activation timing, which is at the start of the race, that is a straight, and also at the late race. So it serves as a double and it can activate as groundwork if you hit it at the start, and it activates as an acceleration on the late race if it activates on the late race. However, this is not the case with this CM. One more thing as well about straight acceleration skill on the CM. The straight on the late race in this course is about 100 meters late, and you can take that into account when taking straight acceleration skill like Turbo Sprint for example. So I'll rate them lower on the priority list when getting the acceleration skill. And due to that, we can see that corner acceleration skill is really strong on the CM. The consistent corner acceleration skill on this race course are the usual corner acceleration skill suspect. On this racetrack, they are specifically National Flower Unique, which is Budding Blossom, Tanky Shuttle Unique, which is Shooting for Victory. These two acceleration skill are for the Pace Chaser, and Angling and Skimming as per usual for the front runners. Lastly, we also have Let's Pump Some Iron for late surger and end closers. Moving past and beyond do not work on DCM, so please do not take that skill. By the way, since the entire opening leg of this course is a downhill skills are actually really good for accelerating in the early race. Straight descent and determined descent is really good on this track. They can act as your groundwork because the whole early race is downhill. I also want to touch briefly here a bit more about late and its acceleration skill. Late Surger gets a significant buff on its gambling acceleration skill, which is on your left on this major update. The activation box for the skill is changed into the first half section of the late race. This makes the gambling acceleration skill itself more consistent than what it used to be. One more thing as well, Late Surger also gets a new access of acceleration skill called Lead Forward. This is an acceleration skill that activates when you do an overtake in the late race, and it's way more consistent since you will be overtaking. Instead of praying to the gods, you activate your acceleration skill on the right timing. The only drawback is that you currently only can get the skill if you're running on the Make Any Strike scenario and choose your style as Late Surger when running your Uma, as there is currently no support card that provides this skill yet. This is very contradictory to what scenario we want to run in, since Unity Cup is right now just better, it is more comfy, faster, due to their mechanic updates and stat cap. Besides this, the usual gambling action skill are also good as a supplementary. They are optional but nice to have. These are the good old reliable stuff like Head On, Nimble Navigator, Ignited Spirit Power, etc. No Stopping Me is not really that good in No Stopping Me is not really that good in the CM since it's a sprint CM. You can take it as a last resort. Just Nimble Navigator is fine. You can spend the excess skill point on other speed skills or acceleration skill. Corner Connoisseur from the Guts Yukino Vision is also pretty decent as a Gamma skill, as the corner on the middle leg is nearing the last spurt as well. This is the case if you're still enjoying playing Make a New Track and want to Guts Max. But I feel at this point, people are already burned out of the track placer scenario, and I'll not recommend running Mag and just do the normal with maxing and go on the Unity Cup. As for the stats requirement, we all know that for sprint distance, stamina is not that important at all. I'm pretty sure some of you are also still confused if bringing the speed over the stat cap affects the stamina consumption as well. Of course it does, but to assure you, I've already put this stats line into the stamina calculator, and as we can see right here, from the actual result, having roughly 350 stamina and the stat line is already more than enough, and I don't think you need to overcompensate with stamina. Just having roughly 350 or 400 stamina is more than enough for the CM. So with the stamina required in mind, we can just focus on the other stats, mainly speed, power, and width. Guts, it's kind of whatever. If you can get a decent amount, that's okay, but if not, then just leave it. You don't really need to force to get guts. It's like the only stats that you can sacrifice and be fine with the CMs. We will also be getting new mechanics for the power stats over 1200. This is called conserve power. And what this does is that any stats of power over 1200 mark line will give you extra acceleration on the late race. This is quite important as well because on sprint, we want as many acceleration to reach the top speed the fastest. However, I still wouldn't sweat it too much if you cannot hit over 1200 stats on power as well. It's only a little bit of extra acceleration, it won't be the end of the world if you don't have it. This is usually also only possible if you have really strong cards and good inheritance on the Power Spark. For example, this is a current chant that I recently built for next CM. The stat lines are as follows with this deck. I use a lot of Power Spark here to reach it over 1200, and it's definitely the play for the next CM. S on turf is about the same strong as on the sprint distance. So if you get either of those, it's nice to have. In the ideal world, we definitely want both on S, but if you only get one of them, it's also fine. Let's talk about the decks. For some of you who are still wondering what's the best scenario right now to run your aces, it's the Unity Cup. The overall mechanics buff and the higher stats cap across the board compared to Trackblazer scenario makes it a no-brainer option. To give you an idea, I hit this UG2 current ace on my second time playing the Unity Cup, where it took me so many tries on Trackblazer only just to hit SS rank. The only time you want to be building aces in the Trackblazer scenario for next CM is if you are actually running a late surger, because you want to get the new late surger hints like leap forward for the next sprint CM. Otherwise, it is not worth it to run aces in the Trackblazer scenario currently. Okay, with that in mind, we'll be crafting decks for Unity Cup instead. Here is an example of a frontrunner deck. Marusensky for obvious reason, as you will be getting a lot of runner hints from this card, and the Spirit Bombs will also help you with it. He does on black as per usual, a good speed card, and Professor of Curvature is just generally a good gold speed skill. As for the wit cards, Fine Motion for its strong training, Marvelous Sunday for its broken middle leg speed skill, and Mihono Bourbon for taking the lead gold skill. The God Sakura Bakushin O card is probably the card that you will borrow. This card have a lot of good hints for the sprint distance track, and its gold skill is also very good for fronts. This is an example of a decked out cards, so you can always substitute with what you have as per usual. If you have MLB Fukukitaru, Narita Top Road, or Pico for example, they can also work here as a substitute for the strong trainings. Otherwise, the SR options card like Sweep Tosho or Shinko Windy will perform really good as well. For the wit cards, to be honest, any good wit card can work here. If you want a strong trainings, card like the Fukukitaru for right-handed and its scenario link will definitely help. Agnes Tachyon just for the training effects and race bonus, or if you have SSR cards like Karen Chan for its gold skill, perfect prep are also worth considering. For the page chaser, the deck format will only change a little bit with the additional Borrow of Daiwa Scarlet. Daiwa Scarlet power card is really good here for the neck and neck gold skill. This skill was also recently buffed together with On Your Left on the gambling exploration department. It's moved up to the first phase random half, and it's more reliable as an exploration skill in general. Otherwise, the format stays the same on the deck, and you also have access to Speed Star because you are running Fine Motion, which is good on this track as well. For the late surgers, the example of the max out deck could be something like this. But obviously, you can switch out the cards that you don't have with the alternatives I mentioned before. I don't really expect anyone to have MLB Nakayama Festa anyway. And Nakayama Festa is only there because it provides a lot of late surgery hints and is a pretty decent card overall. But if you can only choose one Poro, then definitely Nice Nature is the way to go. On your left buff is the reason why even late surgery are a bit viable for the next CM. For enclosures, the only real difference is you run the with Mr. CB card in the deck, the slot is pretty much flexible, and the last card to fill the slot in the stack is any card to help you with the sprint hints or encloser hints to help you win the race. But just to be noted, supposedly encloser is currently the worst for the next sprint CM. Alright, that wraps it up for the decks in the Unity Cup. However, if you are still stubborn and want to run Trackblazer, or you actually want to run it because you want the late surgery hints like leap forward, then definitely go for the Guts Maxing build, the usual 1 speed 3 Guts to it on your deck. This build can be something like Kitasan Black, or Fugukitaru card, or Narita Top Road, either one of your best speed card, and then the usual 3 Guts trio that is Haru Urara, Admire Vega, and Yukino Vision card. Obviously, if you have any better Guts SSR card like MLB Iconodictus or Bakushin, then definitely use them. The wit card is also the usual suspect like Fine Motion, Marvelous Sunday, or any high race bonus cards in general. If you can also borrow current wit card for its gold skill perfect prep, as an Arigamba skill, you can do it as well. Moving into the meta discussion, and oh boy, there's so much to discuss because of the new recent changes. First of all, I've already mentioned this, but the recommended scenario is you need the cup to build your aces just because of the higher stats cap across the board, and it's easier to build your aces with the new Spirit Bomb mechanics. This also opens up a lot of new possibilities because we are not secret even locked anymore, namely, you can now build Runway San Suzuka. However, before you start building a Runway Suzuka for the next Sprint CM, she is actually a bad idea. Runway doesn't have enough time to actually build a lead in the sprint distance. They won't be able to take advantage of the position keep mechanics and will just get overtaken by the base chaser after the position keeps end. This is also the case and problem with fronts for the CM and sprint CM in general. They cannot abuse their OP frontrunner mechanics and build a huge gap and lead, which we usually see on longer distance racetracks. So, as you can see, it is why Pace Chaser is going to be so dominant on the next sprint CM. Looking at the distribution of acceleration skill, it's also heavily favoring for Pace Chaser. Pace has access to 2 acceleration skill inherit that is Budding Blossom and Shooting for Victory, which both activates at a good timing. So it's simply stronger than Front, which only have Angling and Scheming, and Late or Encloser, which only have Let's Pump Some Iron. Late and Encloser was deemed that pre the balance patch, but after the major update, Late Surger seems to be a little bit more viable for next CM with the buffed up version of On Your Left. However, the same cannot be said for Encloser as they didn't get much out of the new update. The style distribution will look pretty much like this for the next CM, with Pace Chaser still being on top, followed by Fronts, and then Late Surger with Encloser being that last. I also want to touch on the debuffers because with the introduction of Summer Goldship, this has changed a lot of stuff for us. With Summer Goldship being available, basically now every CM will have debuffers being enabled. Inheriting Goldship unique into any Dominator debuffer, let's say, will guarantee you the gold debuff skill to activate on any race even though the track style is wrong. So you can now see Dominator on sprint distance, Dominator on mile, or even long distance track. This also applies the same to the Keen Eye skill as well, so you can expect to see some Dominator or even Keen Eye on the next Sprint CM. Do keep in mind that when you make these debuffers, make sure the gold skills are only your gold debuff skill, because 564 or Gold Ship Inherit can auto-activate any gold skill. So let's say if you bring Professor of Curvature with 2 other gold debuff skill, you can proc the Professor of Curvature instead of debuffing the enemy Uma with your gold debuff skills. Alright, that's basically it for the meta discussion. Let's talk about the meta Umas for next CM. The top meta Umas for fronts in the CM never really changes, and as per usual, Valentine Bourbon just because she is easy to build and has good aptitude spread. If Mihono Bourbon is good, Then Summer Marcinski is always just behind her, just a little bit harder to build than Valentine Bourbon. CM Sky is also there because she has angling and skimming, but her aptitude on sprint is really bad, so it's definitely hard to train her and definitely not recommended. Lastly, front also have the option of San Suzuka, but you need to run her as a normal front runner because the runaway version will lose 100%. The reason she is somewhat good as a normal front runner is because of her gold skill Unrestrained that might activate on the corner before the last spurt, giving you a huge acceleration to start the late race itself. Okay, moving into the Pace Chaser, why Taiki Shuttle and Nishino Flower is at the top, they are both really good ace here. Their acceleration unique is very good for DCM and that is the sole reason. Besides the acceleration unit, Ogre Cap is also simply good because Ogre just being Ogre, and Triumphant Pulse is always good no matter what distance track it is. Corner Connoisseur being somewhat good on DCM too also helps Ogre out. I also want to add one Uma that I think is kind of sleep on at this point and is very good after the update, which is Special Weight. Even though she has F on sprint and that requires a bit more distance tuning, her upgraded unique is just straight up broken. Shooting Star now gives you current speed and acceleration when activated. This is the first skill that gives current speed increase instead of target speed increase in the global server. If you don't know what's the difference, current speed is way more OP because let's say my Uma is running at 22 meters per second right now. If I activate this unique, it jumps up directly to 22.35 meter per second instead of needing to accelerate from 22 to 22.35 meter per second, which is a huge difference in time because you need to accelerate to reach your top speed. Pace also have more other options. One of the meta umas for next CM will be Festival Gold City. It is a good option because simply her unique activates when she is challenged on the final corner, which leads to the late race of this course. And she gets target speed and acceleration from her unique, so it's very easy for her to pop off entering the late race itself. By the way, these three Umas are also viable as a late surger if you prefer to build them that way. And they are also the recommended three late surgers that I'll consider running on DCM if you want to go for the meta options. Otherwise, for late surger, you can just go for Oshi Gaming as well because you will most likely just rely on your left to pop off and some other gambling acceleration skill to help you win the sprint CM. I forgot to mention, but when it comes to sprint, of course, Karen Chan is definitely good here. The wedding version is better because it's just made to be good for sprint distance specifically. Her unique one true color activates just right before entering the last spurt and gives you bonus speed and acceleration. What can I say? Her kit is just giga suited for the sprint distance. She also has turbo sprint to help her in her kit. You can also do some funny builds making her as a debuffer with the Adored by All debuff skill, but I do not really like it because I just want my current Chan to win and not make her as a debuffer. There's really no recommendation for Enclosure as well, just because this style is not really recommended for the CM. It is better to just do Late Surger instead, so feel free to run any Oshi Enclosure that you like for this if you want to force an Enclosure Uma. Alright, lastly, for the team composition, given how much Pace Chaser is dominating the CM, a pace heavy comp is going to be your strongest option. This could be 3 pace if you just straight up want to go full meta, or if you want to make it a little bit more interesting, like having a pace setter, you can put it like 1 front and 2 pace chaser. The meta option for this will be something like Valentine Bourbon plus Taiki Shuttle and Nishino Flower. Boom, team done. Or for example, you can also put Ogre Cap, she works as well as a Pace Chaser here. You can also put like 2 Pace Chaser plus 1 Late Surger if you want to have a little bit of fun having a Late Surger in your team. Otherwise, the last option is of course Oshi Gaming. You put one of your best Uma and two debuffers. This is easier because now you can put in like Agnes Tachyon or Symbol Rudolph with Dominator debuffer and 564 from Gold Ship Inherit, and boom, you have the team done. You only need to train one ace for this. Alright, that's it. That's all you need to know for the upcoming Leo Cup. This guide is made a little bit too late, but I hope you still have enough time to build your aces in the Unity Cup for the upcoming Sprint CM. If you have any questions as well, you can join my Discord server, link in the description. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.